At 8:47 on Sunday night, Camille Turner stood beside the living room window with one hand pressed against the curtain and the other wrapped tightly around her phone. Her children were supposed to have been home at 6. 9-year-old Zoe had school in the morning. 7-year-old Caleb still needed a bath, his reading log signed, and his inhaler placed inside the front pocket of his backpack. Their clothes were laid out upstairs. Their lunches were half-packed. The house was ready for them. Only the children were missing. Camille called her mother again. The phone rang twice before going to voicemail. "Mom, please call me. It's almost 9. She ended the message knowing before she sent it that Lorraine would later say she had not heard the phone. Camille looked through the glass again. No headlights. No children. No explanation. This had happened before. Lorraine was never 10 minutes late. She was never caught in ordinary traffic or delayed by a long checkout line. She was always late enough to disrupt the evening, late enough for homework to go unfinished, late enough for bedtime to become an argument, late enough for Camille to feel helpless inside her own home. And every time Lorraine finally arrived, she behaved as though Camille's worry were the real problem. Dear hearts, if you have ever been made to feel cruel for setting a reasonable boundary, subscribe and become part of the Velvet Circle, a community where women's experiences are believed, patterns are named, and healing does not require permission. At 9:06, headlights swept across the front wall. Camille opened the door before the car stopped moving. Zoe climbed out first, carrying a half-finished milkshake. Caleb followed with a plastic bag full of candy, looped around his wrist. Lorraine stepped from the driver's seat slowly, dressed in a cream sweater and gold earrings, unhurried and smiling. "There are my babies," she said, as though she had just delivered them from a cheerful afternoon rather than returned them 3 hours late. "Mom, where have you been?" Lorraine's smile disappeared. "Excuse me? I called you 6 times. We were enjoying ourselves. I didn't hear the phone. You knew they had to be home at 6. Lorraine walked around the car and placed one hand on Caleb's shoulder. "We went to dinner. You told me you were taking them to the park. The park made them hungry. For 3 hours?" Zoe looked down at her shoes. Caleb's fingers tightened around the candy bag. Lorraine noticed the children's discomfort, but instead of lowering her voice, she sighed dramatically. "See? This is why I hate bringing them home. They have a beautiful day, and the minute we arrive, you turn everything into tension." Camille felt the accusation land exactly where Lorraine intended. Not on her behavior, on Camille's motherhood. "I'm not creating tension. I'm asking you to respect the return time. They're with their grandmother. They are safe. That doesn't mean you can ignore me." Lorraine's face hardened. "I raised 3 children without tracking every minute like a prison guard. You survived." The sentence was familiar. Lorraine often used Camille's survival as proof that none of Camille's childhood experiences had mattered. The missed school events, the shouting, the days Lorraine disappeared emotionally and expected her children to pretend nothing was wrong when she returned. The punishments that changed according to her mood. Camille had survived. Lorraine believed that meant she had done no harm. "Go inside, babies," Lorraine said. Camille watched her mother give instructions to Camille's children, while Camille stood 3 feet away. Zoe and Caleb hurried through the door. Lorraine moved closer. "You need to relax. Those children are becoming afraid to breathe around you." Camille stared at her. "What did you say?" "You heard me." Lorraine lowered her voice now, but not out of concern for the children. She lowered it because quiet cruelty had always been her strongest weapon. "You're so obsessed with schedules and rules that you don't know how to let them enjoy anything. I give them one happy day, and you make them feel guilty for it." Camille's chest tightened. For one dangerous moment, she wondered whether her mother was right. Maybe she was too strict. 6 o'clock had been arbitrary. Maybe the homework could wait. Maybe she had ruined the children's good day. Then Caleb called from inside. "Mommy, my stomach hurts." The candy bag fell from his hand. The doubt vanished. Camille stepped backward. "They have school tomorrow. This cannot happen again." Lorraine laughed once. "You say that every time." And she got into her car and drove away. The words stayed behind. "You say that every time," because Lorraine knew something Camille had not yet been willing to admit. Camille had never enforced the boundary. She had only announced it. The next morning, Zoe overslept. Caleb cried because his stomach still hurt. His reading log was unsigned. His backpack contained candy wrappers but no inhaler. Camille found it beneath the passenger seat of Lorraine's car after calling twice and receiving no answer. She arrived at work 40 minutes late. Her supervisor, Elena Price, looked up when Camille entered the office. "Rough morning?" Camille placed her handbag on the desk. "My mother brought the kids home late." Elena nodded sympathetically. "How late?" 3 hours. Elena stopped typing. 3 hours? She says I'm too rigid. Did she call? No. Did she answer you? No. Elena leaned back in her chair. That doesn't sound like lateness, Camille. Camille looked at her. What does it sound like? It sounds like she wanted you to understand that your schedule did not matter. The words were simple. They unsettled Camille because they made the situation clear. Lorraine had not lost track of time. She had dismissed it. There was a difference. Camille tried to laugh. My mother has always been like that. Elena's expression remained gentle. That may explain the pattern. It doesn't make the pattern acceptable. That afternoon, Camille received a text from Lorraine. The children had fun. Try to focus on that instead of controlling everything. Camille typed 3 replies and deleted all of them. She finally wrote, future visits will end at 5:30. If the children are not returned by 6 o'clock, overnight or unsupervised visits will pause. The typing bubbles appeared immediately. You would punish your children because you're angry with me? Camille stared up a screen. There it was again. Lorraine had ignored the limit, but Camille was the one described as punitive. Lorraine had caused the disruption, but Camille was expected to repair the relationship by pretending it had not happened. Camille put the phone face down. She did not respond. For the next 2 weeks, Lorraine behaved perfectly. She picked the children up at noon and returned them at 5:42. She answered Camille's calls. She sent pictures from the zoo. She brought Zoe and Caleb home fed, calm, and ready for the evening. Camille began to believe the conversation had worked. Then came Zoe's school concert. Lorraine had offered to keep the children during the afternoon because Camille needed to help with event setup. She promised to bring Zoe to the auditorium by 5:30 and Caleb by 6. At 5:45, Zoe had not arrived. At 5:55, Camille called. No answer. At 6:03, the music teacher approached her. We're seating the children. She's coming. At 6:10, Camille called again. At 6:16, Lorraine finally answered. We're parking. Where are you? The mall. Camille gripped the phone. The concert starts in 14 minutes. I know what time it starts. Why are you at the mall? Zoe needed shoes. She already had shoes. She didn't like them. In the background, Camille heard Zoe crying. Put Zoe on the phone. She's upset because you're upset. Put my daughter on the phone. A moment later, Zoe's small voice came through. Mommy? Baby, are you okay? Grandma said the silver shoes looked prettier, but they didn't have my size, and then we went to another store. It's okay. Come straight here. Grandma said you always rush everybody. Camille closed her eyes. She could hear Lorraine talking nearby, correcting, reframing, using Zoe as the messenger. Listen to me, Camille said gently. You have done nothing wrong. I am not angry with you. The line went silent. Lorraine had taken the phone. You were upsetting her before her concert. No, Mom, you kept her at the mall when she needed to be here. I was trying to help her look special. She already looks special. Of course you would say that. You let her leave the house in anything. Camille ended the call. Zoe arrived at 6:27, 3 minutes before the opening number. Her face was blotchy. Her hair, which Camille had carefully braided that morning, had been restyled and sprayed with glitter. The silver shoes were half a size too large. Zoe stumbled twice, walking toward the stage. From the audience, Lorraine smiled, as though she had saved the evening. Camille sat beside Caleb and watched her daughter search the crowd. When Zoe found Camille's face, whose shoulders relaxed, that was when Camille understood. Her daughter was not asking whether she looked pretty. She was asking whether her mother was still safe. After the concert, Lorraine invited everyone to dinner. No, Camille said. Lorraine blinked. The children are hungry. I'm taking them home. You're still upset about the shoes? I'm upset because you ignored the schedule again. Lorraine looked around the crowded school lobby. Several parents stood nearby. Her voice softened into the wounded tone she used whenever witnesses were present. I was trying to do something loving for my granddaughter. Camille did not lower her eyes. Love does not require you to override me. Lorraine's expression changed. Do not embarrass me in public. I'm not embarrassing you. I'm stating what happened. You have always been ungrateful. Caleb moved closer to Camille. Zoe stared at the floor. Camille saw both children absorbing the exchange. She saw them learning that boundaries were insults, that a woman who said no was ungrateful, that another person's anger meant she had done something wrong. She would not allow that lesson to settle inside them. Visits are paused for now, Camille said. Lorraine's mouth opened. You cannot keep my grandchildren from me. They are my children. They are my family. Yes, and being family does not give you unlimited access. Lorraine's eyes filled with tears so quickly that Camille almost stepped forward, almost apologized, almost abandoned herself. But Camille had spent her entire life rushing to relieve her mother's distress, even when Lorraine had created it. This time, she stood still. We're going home. Lorraine followed them into the parking lot. Camille, don't do this. Camille opened the car door for Zoe. You are making them suffer because you want power. Camille secured Caleb's seatbelt. I'm creating stability. They love being with me. This is not about whether they love you. You're jealous. Camille turned. I am their mother. I do not need to compete with you. For the first time that evening, Lorraine had no immediate answer. Camille got into the car and drove away. For 3 days, Lorraine did not call Camille. She called everyone else. Camille's older brother Marcus phoned Wednesday evening. Mom says you're keeping the kids from her. I paused unsupervised visits. She says it was because she bought Zoe shoes. It was because she repeatedly ignored the return time and made Zoe nearly miss her concert. Marcus exhaled. You know how Mom is. Camille looked down at the dinner she had been preparing. That sentence had protected Lorraine for decades. You know how she is. It meant everyone else had to bend, so Lorraine never had to change. I do know how she is, Camille said. That's why I'm doing something different. She's devastated. She can be devastated and still respect the boundary. She thinks you're trying to erase her. I'm asking her to return children on time. Marcus became quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. You know she'll make this bigger. I know. And you're still doing it? Camille looked toward the kitchen table, where Zoe helped Caleb sound out words from his reading book. Yes. Marcus did not agree with her, but he did not argue again. The calls came next. An aunt accused Camille of being unforgiving. A cousin reminded her that many women had no help with their children. A family friend said grandparents had rights too. No one asked what it felt like to wait for hours without knowing where her children were. No one asked how often Zoe and Caleb returned exhausted, anxious, overfed, or confused about whose rules mattered. No one asked why Lorraine's feelings deserved more protection than the children's routine. Camille began writing everything down. Agreed return times, actual return times, missed calls, texts, school disruptions, statements Lorraine made to the children. She was not preparing for revenge. She was protecting herself from confusion. Because each time Lorraine retold the story, the facts changed. The mall trip became a 10-minute stop. The 3-hour delay became heavy traffic. The unanswered calls became a weak phone signal. The candy became a single dessert. The glittered hair became Zoe's request. Documentation gave Camille somewhere solid to stand. Pattern definition moment. Repeatedly overriding an adult child's parenting decisions can become a form of family enmeshment and coercive boundary violation. Enmeshment occurs when a family member refuses to recognize where their authority ends and another person's autonomy begins. The controlling person may describe access as love, disagreement as betrayal, and boundaries as punishment. In this pattern, children may be used to maintain influence. The person may ignore schedules, contradict household rules, speak negatively about the parent, or create situations in which the parent must either surrender authority or appear cruel. A late return by itself may be a mistake. A repeated late return, combined with silence, guilt, undermining, and retaliation when confronted, may reveal a larger pattern. The issue is not the clock alone. The issue is the refusal to recognize the parent's right to decide. 2 weeks into the pause, Camille scheduled an appointment with a family counselor named Dr. Renee Wallace. Camille expected to discuss Lorraine. Instead, Dr. Wallace asked about Camille's childhood. "What happened when you disagreed with your mother?" Camille gave a small laugh. "We didn't." "What happened if you tried?" "She cried or yelled. Sometimes she wouldn't speak to us." "For how long?" "Days." "And what did you learn from that?" Camille looked toward the window. "That it was easier to give her what she wanted." Dr. Wallace nodded. "Does setting a boundary with your mother make you feel physically unsafe now?" "No." "Does it make you feel guilty?" "Yes." Guilt is not always evidence that you have done something wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that you're doing something unfamiliar. Camille's eyes filled. She had spent years using guilt as a moral compass. Lorraine's disappointment meant Camille was selfish. Lorraine's anger meant Camille was disrespectful. Lorraine's tears meant Camille had gone too far. But what if those feelings did not belong to Camille? What if she could allow her mother to be unhappy without rushing to become obedient? What would a healthy boundary look like? Camille asked, clear, measurable, and connected to your actions rather than hers. Camille frowned. Explain that. You cannot make your mother return the children on time. You can decide what you will do if she does not. So I stop the visits. You pause unsupervised visits. You may allow shorter supervised contact in public spaces. You may require written confirmation of times. You decide what level of access is consistent with safety and stability. And if she tells everyone I'm cruel, you let other adults manage their own opinions. Camille smiled despite herself. That sounds difficult. It may be, but difficulty does not make it wrong. Before Camille left, Dr. Wallace gave her one more question. What do you want your children to learn from watching you? Camille answered immediately. That no means no. Then she paused. And that you can love someone without letting them control you. That night, Camille sat at the edge of Zoe's bed. Are you mad at Grandma? Zoe asked. I'm not happy with some choices Grandma made. Is she bad? No. People are more complicated than good or bad. Then why can't we go with her? Camille chose her words carefully. Because when someone is responsible for you, they have to follow the safety rules your parent gives them. Grandma has not been following those rules. She said you don't want us to have fun. Camille felt pain rise behind her ribs. What do you think? Zoe picked at the edge of her blanket. I think you want us to have fun, but I also think you want to know where we are. I do. And you don't like when I'm tired for school. That's true. Zoe looked at her. Grandma said you were always bossy. Camille took a slow breath. Adults should not ask children to choose sides in adult disagreements. You do not have to decide who is right. That is not your job. Zoe's face softened. What is my job? To be 9, to learn, play, ask questions, make mistakes, and tell me when something makes you uncomfortable. Even if Grandma says not to? Especially then. Camille kissed her forehead. Zoe reached for her hand. I like being home before it gets dark. The sentence was quiet, but it gave Camille the confirmation she had been afraid to ask for. The boundary was not depriving her children. It was relieving them. Lorraine appeared at the house the following Saturday without warning. She carried 2 shopping bags and a bakery box. Caleb ran toward the window. Grandma! Camille stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. Lorraine held up the bags. I brought clothes for the children. You should have called. I should not have to make an appointment to see my own family. We agreed you would give notice. We did not agree. You announced. Yes, I set a boundary. Lorraine stared at her daughter. as though the word itself were vulgar. "You've been talking to that counselor." "I have." "I knew it. Someone is filling your head with nonsense." "No one filled my head. I am making decisions for my household." Lorraine attempted to step around her. Camille did not move. "You are not coming inside today. The children saw me." "I know. You're hurting them. You arrived unannounced after I asked you not to." Lorraine shoved the bakery box toward Camille. "I came with gifts." "Gifts do not erase the boundary." Lorraine's eyes narrowed. "You think you're better than we now." Camille felt the old urge to explain herself, to soften her voice, to prove she was still a good daughter. Instead, she said no. "No what?" "No, I do not think I am better than you, and no, I am not debating this on my porch." Lorraine's voice rose. "You owe me respect." "I am speaking respectfully. You owe me access." Camille shook her head. "I do not owe anyone access to my children." Lorraine flinched. That was the sentence she had feared most. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. "I gave you everything," Lorraine said. Camille's voice remained steady. "You gave me many things, Mom. I am grateful for the good. But motherhood was not a loan I have to repay with my children." Lorraine's face collapsed into tears. For several seconds, Camille stood there and watched her mother cry. She did not mock her. She did not dismiss her. She did not change the boundary. "I love you," Camille said, "but I will not teach my children that love means ignoring their mother." Lorraine wiped her face. "You're going to regret this. I hope we can repair this. You already destroyed it." "No, the relationship is changing. That is not the same as being destroyed." Lorraine carried the bags back to her car. The bakery box remained in Camille's hands. Camille watched her mother leave. Her knees trembled after the car disappeared. Courage did not feel powerful. It felt like grief without surrender. Free resource mention. Dear hearts, moments like this can leave a woman questioning herself even after she has done the right thing. The 5-minute self-talk reset, linked in the description and pinned comment, is designed to help you slow the guilt, return to the facts, and speak to yourself with steadiness instead of fear. Over the next month, Lorraine rejected every condition Camille offered. She refused supervised visits because she said Camille was treating her like a criminal. She refused public outings because she wanted the children at her house. She refused written schedules because families should not need contracts. Each refusal clarified the issue. Lorraine did not merely want a relationship. She wanted a relationship without limits. Then something changed. Marcus stopped by Camille's home one evening. He stood in the kitchen while the children completed homework. "Mom kept my daughter late yesterday," he said. Camille looked up. Marcus's daughter, Brielle, was 14. "How late?" 2 hours. Wouldn't answer the phone. Camille waited. "She took her to get her ears pierced," Marcus continued. "Did you give permission?" "No." Camille saw the recognition moving across his face, not because Lorraine's behavior was new, because it had finally crossed a boundary he considered his. "She told Brielle I would say no because I'm controlling," Marcus said. Camille closed the folder in front of her. "What did you do?" "I yelled." "At Mom?" "At everybody." He rubbed his forehead. "Brielle cried. Mom cried. Then somehow I ended up apologizing." Camille understood. "She changes the subject from what she did to how you reacted." Marcus looked at her. "Has she always done that?" "Yes." He sat down. For the first time since the conflict began, Camille showed him the written record. He read every date, every time, every missed call, every excuse. When he finished, he placed both hands on the table. "I thought you were overreacting." "I know. I'm sorry." Camille wanted to say it was fine. It was not fine, but she did not need to punish him to acknowledge the harm. "Thank you for saying that. What happens now?" "She can choose whether she wants a relationship that respects our parenting. And if she doesn't, then we stop pretending access is the same as love." Lorraine agreed to counseling after Marcus established the same boundary. She arrived at the first session angry. She crossed her arms and refused to look at Camille. Dr. Wallace asked what Lorraine believed the problem was. "My children have turned against me." Camille remained silent. Dr. Wallace asked, "What have they requested?" They want to control everything. What specifically? Return times, phone calls, permission before I buy things, or take the children places. Dr. Wallace nodded. Those are ordinary parental expectations. Lorraine looked offended. Not in my family. That may be the conflict. Your adult children have created households with boundaries different from the ones you prefer. I am their mother. You are. That should mean something. It does. It does not mean their adulthood ends when you disagree. Lorraine looked toward Camille then. Pain sat beneath the anger. What am I supposed to be now? She asked. I spent my whole life being needed. The room became quiet. For the first time, Camille heard what might exist beneath her mother's control. Fear, not an excuse, but an explanation. Lorraine had built her identity around being central to her children's lives. Their independence did not feel like growth to her. It felt like abandonment. Dr. Wallace leaned forward. You can become a grandmother whose presence creates safety instead of conflict. Lorraine cried. Camille did not rescue her. She listened. Over several sessions, Lorraine apologized and withdrew the apology more than once. She agreed to rules, then complained that they humiliated her. She attended one supervised outing and spent most of it sulking. Change did not arrive as a single breakthrough. It arrived as a series of choices, some good, some disappointing, all revealing. Camille stopped measuring progress by Lorraine's mood. She measured it by behavior. Did Lorraine arrive on time? Did she answer the phone? Did she ask before changing plans? Did she avoid criticizing Camille to the children? Did she respect the answer when Camille said no? For 6 weeks, the visits remained supervised. Then Camille allowed Lorraine to take Zoe and Caleb to lunch for 2 hours. Lorraine arrived 10 minutes early. She handed Camille a written itinerary without being asked. We'll be at Bell Street Cafe, then the library. I'll have them back by 4. Camille nodded. Thank you. Lorraine looked toward the children, then back at Camille. If we want to go somewhere else, I'll call first. Yes. The words were simple, but this time, Lorraine said them without contempt. I understand. Camille did not know whether her mother's change would last. She no longer needed certainty to maintain the boundary. She had learned that trust did not have to be restored all at once. It could be earned in minutes. In return phone calls, in kept promises, in children arriving home when expected. At 3:54 that afternoon, Lorraine's car entered the driveway. Zoe and Caleb climbed out carrying library books. No candy bags, no secret purchases, no whispered message about their mother ruining the day. Lorraine walked them to the door. They ate lunch. Caleb used his inhaler once after running outside. Zoe checked out 3 books. Everything is in their backpacks. Camille smiled. Thank you for bringing them back on time. Lorraine nodded. I said I would. Camille looked at her mother. Yes, you did. It was not a perfect ending. It was a truthful one. Lorraine had not been defeated. Camille had not become hard. The children had not lost their grandmother. But the family had learned something it should have understood long ago. Love did not become less meaningful when it was given limits. It becomes safer. Dear hearts, has someone repeatedly ignored a boundary and then accused you of being cruel when you responded? Have you ever confused another person's disappointment with proof that you were wrong? A boundary does not require everyone to agree with it. It requires you to decide what you will do when the line is crossed. You are allowed to protect your home. You are allowed to protect your children's routines. You are allowed to require communication, consistency, and respect from relatives who love your family. And you are allowed to say no without turning the person you love into an enemy. Sometimes the first boundary is simply this: you are allowed to say no. Our story is fictional. The pattern is real. Dear hearts, thank you for spending this time with us in the Velvet Circle. If you haven't already, subscribe and become part of the Velvet Circle. Did you see yourself or someone you care about in this story? Don't stay quiet. Tell someone and ask for help. See you in the next story.
Please don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, and leave a comment below. Subscribe, join the family, and let us know where you are watching and listening from. the lessons you learned, and your thoughts on how we can continue improving to give you the very best. Thank you.